Hi everyone and welcome back to our WARNO 1v1 April tournament. Today we have Jasp versus Apricot. Jasp in red on the left hand side of the map and Apricot on the right hand side of the map in blue. Straight off the bat we can see both players sending a command vehicle to Echo and Delta respectively. We can see a few units going for Jasp to Delta perhaps. Are those defensive units? I'm not sure. They're stingers, so probably. Lots of forward Jaeger Aufkl for Apricot, who is playing as the 5th Panzer Division. Apologies, I've just realised I didn't say. And Jasp is playing as the 8th Infantry. Jasp obviously pumping lots of stuff into Alpha straight away. Various units coming towards Alpha from Apricot as well. But Apricot trying to reinforce and immediately cap Charlie with a command vehicle. Early cap there, not something... Oh, and to be fair... Alpha as well is being capped by Jasp. Not something we always see right at the start of these games. But that is a purchase of command vehicles off the bat for both players. Some combat in the building here between some Jaeger Aufkl from Apricot and the same from Jasp. Who's coming out on top there? I was going to say the two squads should beat the single squad. Alpha Jet HE bombers, 3 of them coming in straight away from Jasp. Oh, lost one of them straight away. Have they done much damage? Honestly, there's a squad of Jaeger Aufkl dead. They've possibly done a little bit of damage here. Those Jaeger Aufkl are routed. Good use of Leopard 1A1A1s, but there is an M1 Abrams there which will... take them out if it gets a good shot off. Cluster coming in on that M1 Abrams though. Has caused it to be stunned. Didn't kill it. Over here, Jasp not really making any effort to push Charlie at the moment. Completely focusing on Alpha, which is very reasonable. I do notice a couple of scout choppers, one from each player, over the water here. Obviously, Apricot intent on Jasp not getting anything around the back though. No defensive units from Apricot in Echo. Over here we do see that one squad of Stingers was sat there. The other squad I assume went up here and has been killed by those Jaeger Aufkl. More reinforcements coming into Alpha by the looks of things. I think Jasp's focus will be on Alpha for the moment. Whether he decides at some point to push Charlie, I'm not sure. But I can see that both players... spreading out their defenses reasonably well. I think, honestly, at the moment, Apricot, for me, has the better spread of units here, has forward recon in several positions, so can hold off the incoming tide. Whereas here, I feel as though Jasp is a little bit more clustered. Obviously, has lost that tank that was there in terms of its forward position. It's now sat back here. Jaeger Aufkl there, some Sicherungs coming, I assume, will end up getting shot at by these Jaeger Aufkl. Their weapons are on. Supplies coming in for both teams. Jasp gonna repair that Abrams, good choice. It definitely needs a repair. Can see an... oh, a HE jet came in there and took out the scout chopper, but equally I think that scout chopper must have killed Jasp's scout chopper, and Jasp lost his jet to the F-104G anti-airplane. Another Alpha Jet HE bomber coming in now. Not sure that's actually going for anything. Those Jaeger have indeed engaged the Sicherung. Now, technically, the Jaeger have the better... oh, Alpha Jet is being used to bomb those Sicherungs. Reinforcements being called in immediately. One squad of Sicherungs being killed by that Alpha Jet. Jet is down, however. Jaeger Aufkl pulling back. You know, considering they have the machine gun, they were just outnumbered there, I think. Plenty of M48s coming in there. Leopard 1A1A1 still remains at the front. Not really any movement at that side. I think that's pretty much in Apricot's possession for the time being. The real question is now, can Apricot push into Alpha? Lots of Pioneer Flams coming in there. Really good unit. Very good if they get into this forest and push in from the side. These M48s can be extremely devastating if positioned well, though they are obviously going to be weak to these Abrams. Cluster Bomber coming in on that Abrams once more. Will get the... Oh, it survived. I honestly thought it was going to get the kill there, because it was already damaged, but it has not got the kill. Abrams getting side shots potentially on... Well, not anymore. I honestly expected the Abrams possibly to get a side shot on one of those M48s, but it would have been a one-hit, one-kill. If it had been a side shot, I'm sure. Has managed to get a front shot on that one, and it is routed down to 3, and it is dead. Very, very effective against those little tanks. Again, it's all about positioning. They went out into the open. Very risky maneuver. Over here, I think, you know, Charlie is a hard place to push into. We've seen it done by a couple of players who I would consider pretty good at the game. But for me, as I've said before, Alpha is where I would want to push. And, you know, discussing this with the likes of Derek S, who play this game a lot, they sort of say the same from having played this map multiple times in training, that Alpha is just the easier point to get into because everything is so close. Which is obviously what I've said since this map was first released and we did that initial assessment of it. Over here I can see an MW1 coming in, I assume going for these units here. It's going to take a lot of fire though, including fire from the Fighting Falcon, and it is dead. That is an expensive loss. I'm not sure it even killed very much because these units were a bit further forward. Definitely something routed there. Those are damaged. Hard to say for definite, but I don't think it got a huge amount of kills. M60 there. CEV coming in as well will be very useful getting up close and personal to infantry squads. Pioneer Flams very effective, better than the engineers in terms of range. Those engineers need to get up close and personal to be starting to throw those, but will not get there. Pioneers being used very effectively. The hand flam patron, as always, doing an immense amount of damage to any infantry they come up against. Look at the... They're just melting that squad. They're such big squads as well. Look at that. Gone. Zisharung's there. Again, a fairly big squad. Just the rifles, though. But yeah, those Pioneer Flams out of ammo, need to be rearmed. I would be moving that vehicle over there to rearm the Pioneers because they are devastating, but they need to be rearmed now. Very clever move here from Jasp, bringing in a CEV and an M60 because Pioneers and Zisharungs cannot stop a tank. So that is a very good move. Over here on the other side of the map, just out of interest, let's have a look. I can see that Jasp is starting to bring in some forces at that side, possibly to put some pressure on the point. Here, we're not seeing too much of a significant build-up from what Apricot already had. I think the focus has switched to this forest here. I would love to see some kind of artillery or mortars being brought in for Apricot so that he can smoke this area. Various use of bombers from both teams. That was a cluster bomber came in and did kill the CEV. No, CEV's alive. It killed the M60. But the CEV is alive and is pushing forward. These units far down the side, trying to keep them out of the way, I think. Such a shame they weren't rearmed. Lots of planes being shot down in this game, I must say. Good air defense from both teams. Down here, I mean, we can't really see much when we zoom right in, but, you know, for me, at the moment, Jasp certainly has the winning force because of the CEV. Is anything else coming in? There are some Jaegers coming in now, which might be heading here. Jasp quite well spread out again here with his tanks and things. Has rearmed and repaired both of those tanks. I mean, Marder 103 Milans, really good units, but I mean, these things aren't going to be any use unless they can get closer to the town for the infantry. So yes, they'll be providing lots of fire support, but all these infantry squads can be repaired as long as they're being used sensibly. Marder's taking a lot of fire. They will not survive. That Leopard 2A3, obviously it will be devastating. Has already killed one of those tanks. Has killed the second tank. Leopard 2A3, one of the best tanks in the game right now by far. Not to be underestimated at all. That Marder just escaping with its 2 pips of health. Down here, Pioneer Flam Squad just surviving with 2 units behind the enemy forces. But Jasp being quite aggressive with this CEV. There's now an M48 there. Now the M48 has 5 front armor and 13 penetration. And the armor on this is actually 13. So, to be fair, interestingly, I feel as though the CEV could potentially win in that fight. Though the CEV is already badly damaged, so probably won't. And this will be doing extra damage, obviously, because what you have to remember is the closer a vehicle is with a tank gun, the higher the penetration actually is. So that penetration goes up by 1 every so many, I think it's 175 meters that it gets closer to the enemy, or 195, I can't remember the exact number in WARNO. I think it's probably the same or similar as Wargame Red Dragon. Those Pivads there, providing some good downfire on the Jaeger, which is trying to get closer to that town. Up here we can see that Jasp is making a move around and trying to push on Charlie. Now I'm just looking and I'm trying to decide who's likely to be more successful. I mean, right now I think Jasp has more chance of getting into Charlie than I think Apricot does of getting into Alpha. Jasp just a bit more spread out there, as are Apricot's forces here. Leopard 2A3, very effective, will do a lot of damage to any vehicles, will kill any infantry it sees, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not convinced. IDS cluster coming in there, going to be targeting these tanks. No. Bit too far forward, has just taken out a transport vehicle. Leopard there being taken out by those 2 M60s. Not the best tanks, but not to be underestimated. There is an Abrams there as well, and a CEV. MW1 coming in to hit. I don't think that dropped. Unless I'm very mistaken, that did not drop its payload. I don't think that dropped. I think that was called in an attempted drop and then had to be bailed out because it went past its target. I could be wrong, but I certainly didn't see it. Up here, as I say, Jasp is pushing into Charlie. Will get in there by the looks of it. On this side, Apricot equally making a push for Alpha, which is the thing to do. This is what should happen. If someone is pushing into Charlie, then you should be pushing them in Alpha, because it means they've expended resources and units on that point, which means that you should hopefully have plenty of units here. Now, realistically, there are some tanks back here. There are a Milan, there's another Leopard 2A3, there's a Leopard 2A3 here. You need to be moving in, you need to be being aggressive here. You need to be pushing with everything you've got, and he is doing that now. Apricot is pushing in slowly. Look at these tanks. Doing such a good job, those M48s. As I say, shouldn't be underestimated. Very cheap, very effective little tanks. But here, those engineers being utilised very effectively, just charging them through the town. They will lob those satchel charges left, right and centre, killing any infantry they come across. There is nothing in Charlie now. 2 squads as issue rungs, a Leopard 1A5, a Leopard 1A1A1, the command vehicle which is being moved, Jaeger Aufkul, both being moved into this point now in an emergency move to defend it, along with some Jaeger being called in. But realistically, any infantry that come near these guys will be killed. Those tanks slowly moving in. They've lost a tank there on Apricot's side. There is still the 1A5, but that will quickly be taken out by that Abrams. Though, that said, that Abrams has taken a lot of damage. And here is a cluster bomber that will finish it off. Really good use of that cluster bomber. 2 anti-air coming in to take out that tow cobra. Good decision, because that would pose a threat to that tank. Here these engineers being pushed forward. Some are dead. These ones now being pulled back. They don't have many satchels left. They could do with being rearmed, but there are more engineers and engineer dragons coming in. Over here we can see in Alpha that Apricot is now in the point. He has got a foothold at this side, pushing in and bringing in more reinforcements. More tanks going up to Charlie as well. This is a really, really good game. This is what I hoped we would be seeing in some of the other matchups. A fight for both points. Apricot playing this exactly as he should be, pushing into Alpha now that Jasp has pushed into Charlie. This is a bit of tit for tat. You're taking that point, well, I'll take this point. As you'll know, equally, Jasp does not have reinforcements in this point. And now we are in a position where Apricot has a straight road to get into Alpha from Echo. And it's a little bit more of a faff for Jasp to get reinforcement into this point. He has to come through a bit more open terrain, and once there are units in here, it's going to be more difficult for Jasp to reinforce that point. Over here, again, I mean, cluster was coming in there. I'm not sure what it hit. I think it was going for this leopard here. Whether it killed another tank, there is something on fire there. Yes, there is a dead vehicle. It looks like a tank. Could be a one of the 2A3s that was in there. No, there is one there. I'm not sure. Not sure. But there were 2A3s, so I suspect that's one of them dead. Here we are seeing that Jasp has got a command in now, so we'll neutralise this point. 2 Leopard 1A5s providing fire support, though realistically Jasp has more units here. Oh, very good use of the MW1. Managed to kill a couple of squads of infantry. Really, really good maneuver from Apricot there. Apricot now in control of Alpha. In the grand scheme of things, are we seeing... Yep, we are seeing a command tank coming in. That was going to be my next thought for this matchup. Various units coming in, including air defense for Jasp at this side. But obviously now Jasp also needing to potentially reinforce Alpha. But honestly, I think Apricot has that point in the bag. Look at the amount of forces Apricot has there compared to Jasp. Equally up here, Jasp slightly more forces, but that said, Apricot still has plenty here and has brought in Pioneer Flams. Those hand Flam Patron will be devastating in these towns. Down here, as we can see, Apricot in firm control of this position now. Many more points in terms of units in that position. Up here, it's a bit more half and half, slightly perhaps leaning towards Jasp, but he does have on Apricot's side 2 Leopard 1A5s providing cover over here. Realistically, I think this has swung in Apricot's favour. And people will tell you that whoever starts on the right hand side of the map where Apricot started will have an advantage on this map, because let's be honest, it's not perfectly balanced. That's coming in to go for that chopper, and that chopper is dead. Jets really good against choppers at the moment. Not always the case in Wargame Red Dragon. Now, I've missed this. This is Jasp going for the kill on the command vehicle at the back. Has expended some points on a scout, on a tow cobra, and has brought round an LRS unit that will destroy incoming troop transports or vehicles that are brought in. That is not a good thing to have behind your lines. This scout still hunting for that Iltis command. Tow cobra trying to fire at it, I think, but not having much success. It's being moved now. The scout is actually firing at it with the minigun. Really, that cobra needs to be on top of it. There we go. That should be killed. Points still in Apricot's favour, because Apricot has both of those points. Has Alpha and has Charlie now. Has managed to push through Charlie as expected with those Pioneer Flams. And realistically, this is now heavily in favour of Apricot. Even with this little manoeuvre around the back, Roland coming in for Apricot. Not even bothering to worry about this side, I don't think, at the moment. I would have expected that Roland to be rolling this way to take out those choppers, but interestingly, those choppers have not killed that vehicle. Why is he not firing the tow launcher at it? I am desperately confused. There goes one. But it missed. And the second one. There we go. We got the kill. Wow. That unit did not want to die. Apricot in very firm control of Alpha now. In reasonable control of Charlie. And Jasp with not a lot of units on the field comparatively. I think Jasp is in a bad position here. I mean, to be able to build up the number of forces to push back into either of these points now, best chance would probably be Charlie in the grand scheme of things, because he's already got various tanks there. But actually, it's a CEV and 2 M60s versus 2 1A5s and a 2A3. Oof. And another 2 1A5s coming in. Alouette coming in there, along with a couple of Jeopards to take out these two choppers. I mean, honestly, I think Jasp might have lost this game at this point. Commander Chopper going around the back. Not often we see those called in these days, but Jasp is going for it. An attempt to cap this point to be able to bring in units round the back of his enemy. Not a bad idea. However, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not convinced it's going to help at this stage. I feel like Apricot has such map control right now. Down here, that CEV getting some shots off. One Leopard has been killed though. The other one taking shots. The Leopard 2A3 coming in will make quick work of the CEV. Surprised the Leopard 1A5 hasn't killed it at this stage, to be honest. There we go. 2A3 will kill it pretty effectively. The Leopard 1A5 is routing. Against a CEV, I mean, I'm a little bit gobsmacked by that. I wouldn't have expected the CEV to do that much to a Leopard 1A5. Those two choppers have been killed by the Jeopard. And command tank is going into that point. That command chopper, along with an anti-air chopper coming around the back there, will land in that point. Might neutralize it, but honestly, I think it's too little too late. MW1 coming in here, I assume, to take out these units that are coming in to attack. Apricot pushing out his defensive line very sensibly. Oh, that is a heavy loss for Jasp and the units he had brought in. HE bomber coming in there to hit those tanks has done minimal damage. Over here, still at 2A3, I assume it's the same one. Tow launcher there will kill that tank. But honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I think this game has gone to Apricot. Neutralizing of this point with that command chopper. But the Jeopard will be able to deal with that. The Lars might cause the Jeopard an issue if they don't show themselves, but if they pop out into visible range, they will just be shot to pieces. Jaeger's being brought in as well now, but that is game. That is a surrender from Jasp. Victory to Apricot, very well played. Sensibly counterattacked on Alpha when Jasp went into Charlie. And as we've discussed before on this map, that is how to play it. It is easier to attack Alpha than it is to attack Charlie. So very well played. Obviously, big kills to losses discrepancy in this game as well, which goes to just sort of demonstrate at the end there how you could see that Apricot just had that map control compared to Jasp. Very well played to both players though. Really good effort on Jasp's part to push into Charlie. Just unfortunate that Apricot knew what to do in that situation and Jasp didn't have quite enough units defending Alpha. So, let's hop into the next game of this tournament. Welcome back to our second round game between Apricot and Jasp. Both players now playing as the 5th Panzer Division. Jasp has switched over. We have this time Apricot on the left hand side and Jasp on the right hand side. Jasp's in blue, Apricot in red. So early doors we are seeing command vehicles for Apricot going to both points straight away. Command vehicle for Jasp going to Echo, but I don't... Oh yeah, one going to Charlie as well. Both going again for that early maneuver with the command vehicles. Jasp with an anti-air jet out, I assume for any early bombing runs. Here we see Jasp pushing hard with some Jaeger Aufkull, a Lux there, and Jaeger Aufkull here. Interestingly, Apricot being quite aggressive towards Charlie early game, which isn't something you often see from the player on the left-hand side of this map. Apricot also bringing in reinforcements and units to bolster defense early on in Alpha, which is more what you'd expect to see. Jasp not sending as much there. Now, interestingly, looking at the unit composition here, seeing not a huge amount of units for Jasp, funnily enough. I'm seeing various units maneuvering here, some Lux, plenty of Jaeger Aufkull. I think that Jasp spent a lot of his early points on jets because there's an NW1 just come in there and has done some damage down here to those units that Apricot was pushing with and killed a few. But equally, I think that a lot of money was spent on forward positioning of recon units and a couple of tanks to provide defense further back. Leopard 2A3 there versus the Leopard 1A5. Obviously 2A3 will be the successful unit in that combat. Jasp pushing quite aggressively here, realizing that obviously Apricot has expended a lot of cash on these units here. He has managed to kill some of them still remain, but that means there isn't as much down here. Oh, beautiful use of an MW1, though it has died, it has paid the ultimate price, but it killed all of those advanced recon units that were moving into Alpha. That will have messed up the plans of Jasp a little bit. Lots more units coming in now for Jasp, going towards Charlie. Obviously we'll want to reinforce that point to stop Apricot pushing in. Apricot bringing in units to reinforce this point, as there is not a lot there. I think if there had been more of a focus on units coming towards Alpha, I think Jasp could have been in there, to be honest. But obviously there's been more of an expenditure on some aircraft and some forward recon rather than normal infantry. Just having a look at what's being brought in. Some anti-air, scout chopper, Zischerungs. I feel like there aren't a lot of units on the map right now, so both players must have more aircraft or be buying more aircraft. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd be seeing more coming in on the ground. Panzergrenadier Marders there, some more Alpha Clara, Jaegers. Alouette coming round there once more just to get eyes on the lake. A couple of M48s being brought in there by Apricot. Again, very good units. Now, interestingly, there's very little here for Jasp right now. Jasp pushing the majority of their forces into Charlie at the moment, obviously to bolster the defense. Honestly, now Apricot has lost a lot of what they wanted to send into Charlie early doors. Do obviously still have that big tank there, that 2A3. Those armburst will be very effective against a tank if they can get up close and personal, as they fire relatively fast. M48 coming in there, Pioneers, Jaegers, plenty of units being brought in now for Jasp with an intent to push into Alpha clearly. Not a lot being brought in by Apricot either. This is taking quite a turn, and I'm just wondering if we're going to see a lot of bombers coming out, because I didn't expect so few points to be spent on ground units. Though, that said, Apricot has purchased another 2A3, which is not a cheap unit. That's where many of their points are probably gone. Zischerung's there in a very funny position. I would sooner have brought in some recon up there. Zisharung's being called in the middle of a field, which seems a little bit risky there. And Panzer Grenadiers in Marder's back there. That tank was killed, not overly surprising. Just bringing in a good amount of units to defend there, while also bringing in forces that will attack this point. Now, honestly, look at this position. Compare it to the previous game. Apricot has very little in this point. Apricot is spread very much more across the map. Not a lot of defense in here at all. Defending with a tank, another tank, a Pioneer Armburst squad, a second one. Now, if Jasp can get enough units around this side, Jasp will just march into Alpha. And that will put Jasp in control of Alpha and Charlie. Now, Apricot wants to push Charlie. Apricot wants to get into Charlie and contest it. But Apricot is also in the position that they need to defend Alpha. And they are bringing in the odd unit of Armburst and everything else. But right now, I just don't feel there are enough units defending Alpha versus what potentially Jasp could send in. I like this from Apricot. Apricot is pushing their front line forward, trying to push Jasp away from Alpha to give more time to react, to give more time to reinforce that point if Jasp does push. But realistically, I think Jasp is going to push from this side, not up here. But you will see that Apricot is trying to push through, probably to push through and encircle and cut off reinforcements, cut off the supply lines perhaps for Jasp. But that's a difficult thing to do. That said, at the same time, Jasp doesn't have a lot of units here. Is bringing in a Leopard there. Leopard firing at the infantry rather than the tank. If it was in range, would have been better off getting a side shot on these tanks. These have been quite an interesting pair of games. We've at least seen one game where we've had the obvious strategy for this map, you know, activated and both players engaging with it. But now we've got a very different sort of style of play. We've got an extremely aggressive Apricot, pushing forward very sensibly, maneuvering units about, has lost one of his M48s, probably to that Leopard. That Leopard going to come in and probably do some more damage to those vehicles if they get close enough. Instead, we'll just continue firing at those Jaeger. Armburst coming in, Marder there. I think that Apricot will struggle to get into Charlie at the moment. AA plane coming in there to take out that Alouette, though has veered off. More tanks coming in for Jasp. Jasp making a maneuver here, is going up against Pioneer Flams, which will be super effective against these normal Pioneers. And the Jaeger squads that are there. However, there is an Armburst there. There is an Armburst that will kill that tank. They will kill that tank with ease as long as they can actually hit it. I'm watching for the damage. There's one hit. There's a second hit and it's dead. It's very fast firing. That AA plane has killed the chopper. Over here, Jasp holding out, picking off targets of opportunity as Apricot pushes forward, managing to hold the line. Apricot not getting their wish of pushing through the center here. Down here, we're seeing infantry combat, Pioneers, Jaegers. Jaegers at the back there. Another Leopard 2A3 coming in. Armburst taking a lot of damage. Pioneer Flams not taking any damage. Dishing out the damage though. Jaeger are going to die. Pioneers will probably die. The other squad of Jaeger might just survive. AA jet coming in there against an AA jet. MW1s coming in. 2 MW1s. This is where the money was spent. Both hitting this area. Oh no, one hitting the town, though not killing anything. The other hitting here. Have done some damage to those Armbursts, but have not killed them. 2 Pioneer Farm squads unaffected. And 2 support vehicles. And the Leopard 1A1A1 firing in from the side there. Lux and a 1A5 and a 2A3. 2A3 has killed that 1A1A1. Look at the spread on these units. This is fantastic. A proper frontline scenario across the entire map. multiple points of conflict. These players having to be in multiple places at once right now. Things quieted down in the middle because the concentration is up here and down here. Oh, wow. Jasp has managed to encircle and come round the back behind all of Apricot's units. That's Apricot. Cluster coming in. Aiming for that tank. Has missed it. Jasp has managed to encircle all of Apricot's units. Take them out in that forest. Now, if there was a sensible quick maneuver from Jasp, he could be in that town, but would have to be careful because there are 2 arm busts protecting and some Jaegers coming in there. Leopard 203 there defending as well. Units up here not moving too much. More tanks coming in for Apricot. Obviously, Apricot trying to keep the pressure up, but honestly, I don't think Apricot is getting into Charlie. This is all about Jasp getting into Alpha right now. More Jaeger coming in. Armburst, Jaeger, Jeopards. Zischerungs at the far side for Apricot. This is really interesting. I'm wondering where the players' heads are at right now. I think Jasp is very much in the mindset he knows he needs to push into Alpha and contest it. Whereas Apricot, I feel sort of on the back foot slightly in the sense that is needing to push Charlie while also defending Alpha, and right now just doesn't have the forces to properly defend Alpha versus everything that's coming in. Armbrust, Fuchs, M48, Jaegers, 2A3s, Pioneers and Jaegers coming round the back will engage these armbursts, and the Pioneers should rip them to shreds with those demolition charges. TBC Fuchs being used as recon basically, so that other units can fire from a distance. Jaegers coming in here. Leopard 2A3 firing across at those Jaeger. But right now I think Jasp is going into Alpha. Nothing around the back for either player in this game right now. All the focus on this long front line. You'll notice things have quietened up at Charlie. The focus has switched. There's concentration from both players on Alpha right now. Look at all the shots coming in, supporting fire on that town from tanks, from IFVs. I mean, the Fuchs is just a transport, but look at the amount of machine gun fire coming in on these Jaegers. Leopard 2A3 pulling back. Units from the centre also pulling back. Hopefully to try and defend the city, but realistically, Jeopard also firing an Alouette scout chopper. M48's being brought in as well now, but that's it. Jasp is in the point. Up here, we can see that Apricot is now thinking he needs to push in to Charlie. He needs to be in there. Is maneuvering units around, but honestly, I think they're going to struggle to get in. Jasp has the foothold they needed. Moving more tanks towards the north of this point as well. We'll be able to push round at that side probably. Obviously the focus being on the south end of this point right now. Armburst coming in as well. Anti-air coming in. Cluster bomber coming in to try and take out that tank, but the M48 was too far in front of it and the Leopard 2A3 was further behind. Oh! And that was beautiful maneuvering by Jasp. Whether that was just by chance, I'm not sure, but I don't think it would have hit the Leopard anyway, because the Leopard was a bit further forward, but good maneuvering. Moved into where that bomber had just been. Supply coming in as well. That was a tank shell going at those Pioneers, I assume. But Jasp in reasonable control of half this point now. Are we going to see, yes, a command vehicle coming in as well? Up here at the top, Apricot is doing what they must, pushing into Charlie. Good use of tanks, trying to keep them at a distance, but realistically is going to need to get in there and fight. Amber's being brought in. Leopard 1A1A1's being moved away from that point, strangely. 2A3 is being brought in, though, I assume, to reinforce that point. Leopard 1A1A1 actually being moved back now. Lots of fire coming on these Jaegers, but various units firing back. I was expecting to possibly see a couple of bombers coming in for Jasp on this little cluster here, perhaps Jasp concentrating much more on the lower point in Alpha, is now mostly in control of this point. Still has the command vehicle to contend with in that corner, but has now neutralized the point. Plus 3 points to Jasp. Apricot, he is that bomb of the cluster coming in to hit those tanks. Oh, 2 tanks dead. MW1 coming in, and the second MW1, that is the attacking force decimated. Absolutely decimated. The 2A3 escapes, and that is the surrender. That is a surrender from Apricot. Total victory to Jasp. Very well played to both players, but as you can see in this game, kills to deaths or kills to losses in Jasp's favour. Really well played from both players. Lovely spread out front line in that game. Really, really good games, both of those ones. Unfortunate that there was obviously surrender in both games, but just to show how this map can be played and how aggressive you can be with both of those points and how it can play out. A little bit different to the games we've been seeing. No really standout units there. Leopard 2A3s perhaps being the most standout of all the units for both players. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for the rest of the week. We will be doing more WARNO game casting, and we will try and play some this week as well. Obviously, later on today, we'll be having Wargame Wednesday, so please do stay tuned to the channel for that live stream. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you all soon.